All right, buckle up because we're diving deep into DNA, the very blueprint of life. We're talking about the discovery that changed everything.
It's hard to imagine, but before 1953, scientists were kind of stumbling around in the dark. They knew DNA was the secret to heredity.
But they couldn't crack the code. What did it look like? How did it work?
Exactly. It was a puzzle with most of the pieces missing.
So where do we even begin with this story?
Well, Watson and Crick, they weren't starting from zero. They actually talk about some earlier attempts to figure out DNA structure right there in their paper.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, there was this one model by Pauling and Corey, but let's just say it didn't quite fit with what the experiments were showing.
Right.
Especially when it came to the whole X-ray diffraction data.
X-ray diffraction. Okay, you're going to have to refresh my memory on that one. How does that even work?
Right, so imagine shining a light through, let's say, a crystal. You get a pattern, yeah. The light scatters in a specific way.
Okay, I can picture that.
Well, with X-ray diffraction, you use X-rays instead of light, and by analyzing the way those X-rays bounce off the DNA, you can start to see how the atoms are arranged inside.
So it's like using X-rays to take a peek inside DNA. That's pretty clever.
It is, and that's where our other paper comes in, the one by Wilkins, Stokes, and Wilson. These guys were like the X-ray diffraction gurus of the time.
And they published their findings right alongside Watson and Crick. What a time for science. So what did those X-ray visions reveal?
They basically bombarded DNA with these X-rays.
Right.
And when they analyzed the patterns,
They found
well, they found these things called Bessel functions. And trust me, it was a really big deal.
Bessel functions. That sounds complicated.
It's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. Think of them as mathematical descriptions of how waves, in this case X-rays, behave around a cylindrical object. And guess what? Finding those functions in the DNA data strongly hinted at a helix shape.
Hold on. So they used math to crack the code of life. That's wild.
Pretty much. Now, back to Watson and Crick. They took all this information, right, the previous attempts, the X-ray data, and they came up with something truly revolutionary.
The double helix. I mean, it's iconic now. Everyone knows that DNA looks like a twisted ladder, but back then it was mind-blowing.
Totally. And what's amazing is how their model, the whole two strands twisting around each other, it explains so much of what had scientists stumped before.
Okay, so walk me through it. We've got the double helix, the twisted ladder. What else?
So picture this. The sides of the ladder, the rails, that's the sugar phosphate backbone, and the rungs, the part you step on. Those are the bases.
A, T, C, G. I remember learning that.
And here's the real genius. They figured out that A always pairs with T, and C always pairs with G. This base pairing, it's like the engine that drives DNA replication. It's how genetic information gets copied and passed down generation after generation.
It's kind of crazy how something so fundamental can be so elegant, you know?
Right. And they managed to squeeze all of this groundbreaking science, this beautifully elegant model, into such a short, clear paper.
Speaking of their paper, I love how they present their findings. Like they weren't boasting or anything. Didn't they use the phrase, "we wish to suggest" at some point? It's incredibly humble considering what they stumbled upon.
Absolutely. It highlights that science is a team effort. You know, Watson and Crick, they built upon the work of so many others, especially Rosalind Franklin, her X-ray images.
Yeah.
They were absolutely critical to this whole discovery.
Right, it's like a relay race. Each scientist, each discovery moves us a step closer to understanding the universe around us. And in this case, understanding DNA has opened so many doors. We're talking genetic engineering, personalized medicine, even things like ancestry testing. It's unbelievable.
It really is remarkable how far we've come. But as we delve deeper into this genetic frontier, we have to ask ourselves some tough questions, right?
Yeah.
If we can edit the very essence of life, where do we draw the line? What are the ethical implications? These are discussions we can't afford to ignore. The future is here, and it's written in DNA.
Absolutely. That's a brave new world out there, one that Watson and Crick gave us the key to unlock.